You are now listening to the Do It Movement podcast, where we share our experiences in real estate investing and encourage you to take action. You don't want to miss what we have in store today, so let's welcome our host, Martine Richardson, and our co-host, Lord Eubanks.
What's up today, Do It Movement listeners? This is your host, Martine Richardson, your rental property coach. Today, I am joined with the Jeremy Beland. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast today. It's quite an honor. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you on. I don't know if I asked you this before. Is that a Boston accent?
It's a Boston accent, yeah. I live in New Hampshire, but I'm about 45 minutes north of Boston. Yeah, I don't know why I have such a pronounced Boston accent, but I can't hide from it. When I was in the military in 2010, when I was bouncing around the country, people would be like, "Where you from, boy?" I'd be like, "Boston." They're like, "Yeah, I thought so." My nickname was Boston when I was at one point during my career in the military. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love to pick up on people's accents and say, "Oh, I think they're from here," and it just brings great satisfaction when I'm right or close to being right.
You are 100% spot on. So great job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us, what do you do in real estate? How did you get to where you are? All the good stuff. Share your story.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Jeremy Beland. As I said, I'm from New Hampshire with the Boston accent. I'm just about to turn 49 here in a couple weeks now. It's crazy. I didn't start my journey until I was 40. I am remarried with the love of my life, Shelly, and we have a blended family of 5 kids. Like I said, I started my journey at 40 years old into real estate. Prior to then, I was in professional sales. But really, if you don't mind, I'll take a quick little step back in time because it kind of goes into my story a little bit. So, I came from a very poor background, troubled youth, didn't graduate high school, didn't go to college or anything like that. Found myself in my early 20s being a high-rise window cleaner in Boston, hanging off the skyscrapers for like a measly $12 an hour. I had no money, had no credit. And then by the luck of God, a good friend of mine got me a job interview at a professional sales job, selling like fax machines and copiers and things of that nature. I didn't have any sales experience at all. Matter of fact, I didn't even own a tie. I had to go buy my very first tie and have somebody tie it for me just for this job interview. But I think they were like, "Oh my God, the guy's breathing, you're hired." So they hired me because they were desperate. And, I went from like $24,000 a year hanging off skyscrapers to $24,000 a year being inside an office building with the potential to make more commissions, and it started off being a professional career. I found out that over time I was pretty good at sales and building rapport and connecting with people. And, for somebody, this was a great opportunity. So when they said you have to make a ton of cold calls or go door knock and people are just going to tell you no, you got to keep pushing. I was like, I don't care. People telling me no is a lot better than hanging off a skyscraper. So I just did it. But it kind of learned, the power of like what it takes to be successful, right? You have to talk to many, many, many people to become successful. And then with that being said, ended up finding myself getting married. And then, I had 2 kids and I was living what I thought was like the white picket fence American dream. And it really was for me. I had a nice house, had a pool in the backyard, had 2 nice cars, had 2 beautiful children, and I was married and things were great. And I was making well into the 6 figures, which is something I never thought I would achieve from $24,000 a year, not too long before that. And life was great until the recession happened in 2009. And I was severely affected by that. During that time, I was learning about real estate investing. I was just starting to dabble in it a little bit. I was learning from people like Peter Conti and a few others and trying to learn about what wholesaling was, although the way they taught it was very different than the way we do it today. But I was learning about real estate investing, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the cash flow quadrant, right? I was just starting to getting into it, but my world within a year was upside down, more than my equity in my house. So I went from like making really good money to having no job, couldn't find a job anywhere because I had no education. I couldn't even get an opportunity to find a job anywhere. And, people, I don't know if your listeners or yourself remember at that time, but everybody was out of work. And, because it wasn't just a housing crisis, it was also an employment crisis. So people who were much more successful or educated or experienced than me were taking lower end jobs just to get, make their ends meet. So it just pushed me down this totem pole even further. Meanwhile, my house was upside down, $150,000 in equity in about a year and a half, and I couldn't make the mortgage payments. I was slowly falling into bankruptcy and foreclosure. The only thing that really saved me is the mortgage companies really at that time were just going out of business left and right. So I'd be like on the brink of foreclosure, then the mortgage company would sell, it would go to somebody else, and we'd buy time. It was just crazy. It was like a wild time then. But I had this opportunity to get a reset button in life. And I'm going to kind of wrap the story up, but it'll make a lot of sense. So, at 33 years old, when all this stuff was going down, I had 2 kids. I fell into a Great Depression, right? Because as a dad, I felt like, I wasn't providing for my family. As a kid growing up, my family went through foreclosure and bankruptcy. We lost our house. We lost our cars, all were repossessed. I was like, man, history is repeating itself. I'm doing the same thing my parents did to me, to my children. I just felt like a failure. So really, it became like suicidal, really depressed. Couldn't find really any hope. And as much as I was trying to find a job, I just couldn't. And then I had this opportunity because I couldn't afford to go back to college to go into the Air Force. At 34 years old was the age cutoff, and I was quickly approaching it. So I was like, if I'm going to go into the Air Force, now's the time. And I was going to go in there. What I thought would learn is a recession-proof job, which was learning about network security. And I thought no matter what the economy was, I could find some success in that. But I had to get a top secret clearance, and the government was like, no, we're not taking you if you go through foreclosure and bankruptcy. And I didn't know any way out because back then there was no refinance options, loan modifications. There was no help. I was upside down $150,000 and I just couldn't make it. But I knew enough to reach out to a real estate investor because I knew about real estate investing at that time. And that's exactly what I did. A guy who's actually still on my cash buyers list today, although I haven't seen him ever since. But I reached out to him. He came out to our house and he said, hey, listen, Jeremy, I have success working with your mortgage companies and getting successful short sales done. I feel very confident in your situation. I can achieve the same for you. And if I do that, you'll get out without foreclosure, bankruptcy. You'll have 3 years of some bad credit, but something you can rebuild on. And with that, the military, the Air Force, would allow me to get my top secret clearance and join the military. So that's exactly what happened. A real estate investor came out, short sold my house. I went into basic training and July 6th, 2010. I enlisted June 17th, 2010. 3 weeks later, I was in basic training. My nickname was Gramps because I was 33 years old with a bunch of 17-year-old kids. I was so much older than them. What I'd pay to be 33 today. The guy gave me a reset button in life. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today. So I ended up going to do 6 years in the Air National Guard, Air Reserves, slowly build myself back up, ended up getting divorced, and then found myself at 40 years old, basically in a position where I started becoming vulnerable and scared about my future. And I started seeing a lot of people not retiring from corporate America. It was becoming more of a reality, like, this isn't going to happen. 401k isn't your savior. The businesses aren't your savior. You need to start taking control of your life somehow, because if you're putting your control into somebody else's hands, you could be in a situation where you're out of a job again, losing your house, losing your, all that stuff. And I was scared. So I, from hitting rock bottom, started to build myself up to make 6 figures again. And that's when I started to hear some cowbell, ding, 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 on a podcast called Wholesaling In. And this was in 2015 to 2016. I was like, who is this guy? And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, his name is Tom Kroll. He was my very first mentor. And this guy was just so charismatic. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And I wanted to be a real estate investor and take control of my life, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't realize that you could buy properties like you teach with no money, right? I didn't know that was a possibility. I just thought if I wanted to buy rentals or flip houses, I needed money. I didn't have any. I didn't even have money to join his coaching program. So at 40 years old, I decided on my birthday, 40 years old, I decided to sell my townhouse that I owned barely 2 years. I took some equity out of that house. I paid $5,000 for his Wholesaling Inc. coaching program, spent $6,000 in marketing. That $11,000, and I basically moved my kids into a crappy little apartment and basically took a big step forward. And I put all my cards on the table. I said, this is it. We're going to make this work some way, somehow. And wholesaling, I felt it was just going to be my ticket into real estate, and it was. So that $11,000 got me started January 2017 at 40 years old. We did 10 wholesale deals our first year, made an amazing $73,000. But I built a foundation of something great, went on to build from there. And as we stand here now, wrapping up our 9th year, I've done just about 500 off-market transactions in 6 different states, and we're approaching $12 million in gross profits. And I own rental properties and have flipped a ton of houses. It all became a reality, but the road to get there definitely wasn't easy. So that's my story.
Your story. If that did not inspire you, I don't know what will. You overcame so much adversity. And what I noticed about you, no matter if you were afraid, if you were in a bad situation, you always were solution oriented. You were willing to take the risk. Like you're like, I sold my house so that I could so I could change my life. I don't know that many people that would do that. Like I
No,
don't.
no. It's scary, right? Because what if it doesn't work out? And I was just like, well, I have to make it. There is no if it's I'm gonna find a way to make it work. And, and obviously having some mentorship helped a lot. The wholesaling program had its flaws, but it was great at teaching me actionable steps to get me my first wholesale deal. And we got our first wholesale deal in 90 days and I made $5,000 and,
I
I
love
got
it.
proof of concept. Right. And now I just had to get better at it. And, 9 years later, like I still have mentorship. I've had mentorship nonstop, invested hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point in ongoing mentorship. And that's really the key to my success, right? Is always be marketing, always be taking massive or perfect action, but always be learning. So I'm always a student. I learn from the people on my team. I pay for our mentors to teach me. I learn from people like yourself. I'm humble enough to know that I still have a lot to learn, although I know a lot in this business already. So, that's just kind of my mentality on things.
Right. And over time, doing so many deals, being out there, talking to all of these sellers, you've learned some really good skills to acquire properties. I think you told me that you're going to share some of these
I
tips
am.
with the people that are listening today. So let's get to it.
All right.
People are like, I want off-market stuff. How do I do that?
Yes. Well, for me, and of course, I'm a little biased. I think the best deals are off market, right? You're going to pay one way or another. You can pay to buy it through a wholesaler for speed and convenience. You can even overpay and buy it on the MLS, unless you know how to find some good deals. Those are hard to find these days, but you may find them. Or you can pay by learning how to acquire off-market properties with time and effort and through marketing channels. So we create marketing channels such as cold calling, text messaging, direct mail, TV commercials, radio commercials, PPC, pay per leads, right? There's all of these various ways to generate opportunities. But what I found out early in my career was, there's one thing to have leads. There's another situation where you have to take these leads and convert them to deals that actually close, because you can spend thousands of dollars and create leads, but if you don't really know how to manage those leads and turn them into something that creates revenue, then you're just spending money and you're just praying and hoping things will work out. So very early on in my career, I recognized this and started investing into learning acquisition coaching, like sales training specific for this industry. One of my first great mentors was Todd Toback, which is, Tom Kroll's older brother, who taught Tom everything. And Dan Toback works in our coaching business today. I've learned a lot from him as well, and a lot of other people. So, the ability to spend money on leads is one thing. Anybody could teach you how to do that, but you got to get really good taking those opportunities and converting them to deals that close. If you want rental properties, right, and you want to be able to buy them for no money, you need to have great conversations. You need to learn how to connect with people off market. And typically what it comes down to is you're looking for distressed people that have a problem, whatever that problem is. They can be facing pre-foreclosure, tax delinquency, inherited a house that they don't want. They're a tired landlord. They have unpaid tenants. They got in over their head. They lost their job. They have health issues. And whatever that is, they have a problem. Your job is to provide a customized, tailored solution for their problem in exchange for equity in their home. And then when you provide great value, you get properties at great discounts. Techniques like you teach, you can take these properties and control these properties with little to no money out of pocket and start to build a life of freedom for yourself. So I'm going to talk on a few of these techniques that we apply in our business personally. And I'm so active as a house buying business, as I talked about, and with our students. So I'll talk about a few of them today, if that's okay with you.
That sounds amazing. Where's my bell? Ding, 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 ding.
All right. So one of the first things I want to talk about is perceived ownership. Okay. So when you're working with a seller and they're looking to sell the house, really you want to come in from a consultant approach. So when you go to meet somebody at their house, you're not there to sell them on anything. Matter of fact, the first two objections you need to overcome is nobody likes a salesperson and nobody likes to be sold. So we have some techniques to just eliminate that altogether, because when people think of cash buying investors coming into the house, whether it's right or wrong, they have these preconceived notions that this guy's going to come in or this lady's going to come in and they're going to try to lowball me. So they're getting themselves ready for like this battle of negotiation. I'm not going to give up my money and he's going to try to take it from me, right? There's this this philosophy in their head that they think is going to take place. So we really want to take away that whole scenario. So we basically just come in, disarm them, and then just say, hey, we're here to consult with you. And, some of the things that we ask them is like, why don't you list it with a realtor? Have you considered keeping the property and renting it yourself? What about fixing it up and renovating the property and then selling it? We can help find some contractors, right? And when you're deep diving what the challenges are in life, pre-foreclosure, health issues, tax delinquency, they inherited a house, they live out of state, tired landlord, they have tenants not paying, whatever that is, you're deep diving there. But, we're providing them all these different options. And we're also mentioning some of the things that we could do to help. So, hey, if we could take this property and you could keep the tenants in place, even though they're not paying, and you wouldn't have to worry about evicting them or worrying about rents or anything like that, is that something that would be beneficial for you or probably not? Because if they want to list it with a realtor, chances are they're going to have to get those tenants current. They're going to have to get people walking through the house to see it. The tenants aren't going to show anybody anything, right? So there's all these dynamics and challenges that are coming through. But we want to keep asking them questions. And this is where perceived ownership comes in. We are basically allowing them to eliminate every option. I don't want to list it with a realtor because I can't put any money into this house. The tenants aren't going to allow me to show it. I don't have any money to put back into the place. I don't really even want to keep it as a rental. I really just want to take my money and be done with it. I really want to just be done with this whole thing. And that leaves me one option, the guy who's sitting across the couch from me or the living room or the kitchen table. And what that does is eliminates all those different options, leaving us. So we're not selling them on anything. They're already saying, hey, I like all the value you can bring with me, right? Now, if we can agree on a price that works for both of us, this is the solution that I want to be in. So I didn't really sell them on anything. This is their perceived ownership that I am probably the best fit for them. And what that does is it secures them from basically having seller's remorse. The last thing you want to do is sign a contract to leave the house. And they're like, hey, my wife and I, we talked about it, right? You go in there, you're great. You crush the sales. You get a 50 cents on the dollar. You crank it. You're going home. You're celebrating. All right, we did the contract. I got 3 families for my portfolio, right? And then they say, whoa, I don't know if I feel right about this, right? And then they have remorse and they call and they say, hey, we'd like to cancel the contract. We changed our mind. So with perceived ownership, and I'm giving you a 50,000 foot level at this, it's really allowing the seller to feel confident that selling to you, the buyer in that situation, is in their best interest. They're selling you. You're not selling them.
Yes, I love that because people, you'll go into a house, right? And I'll say, go ask them, did they try a realtor? Did they do this? Did they do that? Like just coming up with solutions, right? And one of the first things you'll hear from someone that's new is they'll say, why would I be giving them other solutions? I want them to sign with me. But I'm like, well, if you want to keep the contract, you need to give other solutions so that they can make that decision that they want to sign with you. You don't want to sell them. I think what people are really missing is that people aren't stupid. They know that they could list it with a realtor if they wanted to. There's a reason they don't want to list it with a realtor. Find out what it is. Yeah. So by you asking these questions and coming up with these solutions, they are thinking, dang, maybe this is my best bet because I don't want to do any of those things that he is mentioning. I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to list. I don't want people I can't even show the house. Like, I don't want to do that. So like, you're just making them realize, like, I'm here.
I'm walking them through a journey, and they're self-eliminating all the other options, which is leaving just me as their best option. But I'm not convincing them. They're convincing themselves of that process along the way. So you do have to ask those big, tough, scary questions and make sure that you address all the elephants in the room and be very transparent, because the only way they're going to come to that conclusion is by you having those conversations. You're 100% right.
Right. And then also, I really liked how when you said, you said something about like you were kind of giving an offer a little bit about you like buying it. Would that work for you or probably not? I really like the or probably not.
Yeah.
Because that takes that takes the pressure off. One thing that I like to do, like something that I do when I'm negotiating with people, especially like if I'm giving an offer that's like really no, if you say yes to my first offer, it was not low enough. So
Agreed.
so I will say a number and like a what if. So like what if, I was able to offer you straight from Todd Toback, by the way.
Yep.
What if I was able to give you an offer of, $100,000? Is that a good idea or probably not?
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, right? So you're asking these questions in like hypothetical terms, but you're really trying to pull the information out of what they think about that situation. And you don't want it to be so black and white, right? And you don't want it to feel a lot of pressure. So we're trying to ease the pressure in that situation. And yeah, the probably not, that subtle touch is a difference of just making them feel like, yeah, that probably wouldn't work for me. That's probably too low. Okay, well, if that number is too low for you, knowing that I'm there, what number do you think makes more sense for you? Right. And then you kind of go the back and forth. But yeah, I agree. And listen, if you guys aren't following Todd Toback, you're doing yourself a disservice. Todd Toback is the first and best acquisition coach there was in this business. And he's been a great mentor and key to a lot of my success in my life, for sure.
Right. So let's say we're talking to a seller, right? And they, so based off of with the marketing channels that you were mentioning, it seems to me that you have an idea of what their situation is before you get there. So when you're with them, let's say they're being pretty closed off, you're trying to dive deep and get more like out of them. What are some things that you ask, or how do you get people to like loosen up some so they can like really tell you why they need help?
All right. I guess I'm going to let all the cat out of the bag right now. All right. For you listeners, you guys, like people pay me for this. You're going to learn it for free today. Okay. So typically we have an incoming call script, right? And that incoming call script is to get an idea of, motivation and equity in the home. Those are the really two key factors. I know there's other pillars like timeline and stuff like that, but all I really care about is there equity and is there motivation. I don't even care what the motivation is. If they're motivated to sell and there's equity, I'm going on the appointment, because a lot of great things can happen on the appointment. People can act defensive, big and bad behind the telephone, but when you meet them in person and they start to realize the value you can bring, the conversations change, because a lot of people don't know anything about selling houses or buying houses. All they know is, well, I need to get as much money for this house and I need to make sure that it's broom swept and all this other stuff. Once they start realizing you can do A, B, C, and D, and they're like, holy smokes, I didn't even realize that was a reality. That changes the whole situation and the whole conversations. But I talked about earlier about the two first objections you need to do walking in the door, right? Nobody likes a salesperson. Nobody likes to be sold. So what we like to do is do this, right? When you typically go to a house, what is the first thing they want to do when you show up at a house?
I guess show you around.
Show you around, right? Exactly. So we avoid that. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thanks for having me over today. Before we take a look around in the house, we talked a little bit the other day on the phone about your situation, blah, blah, blah situation. I would like to sit down and get a better understanding of that situation. I have some more questions I want to ask, because this will allow me to provide you a better offer. Does that sound fair to you, or probably not?
I love the
Of course, somebody wants a better offer, right? So I'm setting that. And then I basically say this. Matter of fact, one of our TV commercials we just made says the same thing. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, listen, we're probably not going to do business together today. And that's okay. I've been in this business long enough to know that I'm not the right fit for most people. I'm probably not even the right fit for you. I hope we could do business together today. And I'm here in the efforts and hoping that we can, but chances are we're probably not. So at any point during this conversation, you feel like this doesn't work for you, just say, hey, Jeremy, this doesn't work for me, and I'll be on my way. How does that sound, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? That sounds great. Okay, awesome. And then on the other hand, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as we're talking, I might realize, you know what? This isn't a good fit for me either, or at all. And I may say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you for your time today, but this isn't a good fit for me. So would it be okay if I excuse myself at this time? Does that sound fair if I say that to you as well? Yes. And what that does is we're disarming them, right? They're getting ready, as we talked about, for this negotiation with this big, bad, low-balling investor who's going to try to steal their house from them, right? I mean, no, I'm
Right.
exaggerating. Right? And they get this subconscious, like, okay, all right, so we're probably not going to do business together. This probably isn't the right fit. I don't know why I'm wasting my time, but sure, let's see what he has to talk about today. And then I just start asking him questions. Hey, so the other day you're talking about your situation about the tenants not paying. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that. What's happening? Why is this going on? How did it get to this position in the first place? Right. And I just start asking question after question. And then I listen, right? Because this is intelligence gathering. This is important. You're listening for information, and then you're listening for situations where you can provide value. Well, we were thinking about a realtor, but the tenants just won't allow anybody to come into the house. Oh, okay. So if we didn't have to show the house to anybody and we didn't have to walk through it and disrupt the tenants, is that something that would bring you some value, or probably not? Right? I don't have any money. I need to sell this house and I need to move into my next place. Okay. So if we had a situation, I don't know, again, I'm tied to back. I don't know if this would work for you or not, but if we had a situation where we could close on your house and give you 80% of the funds up front and let you stay in the house for 30 days or longer, rent free, until you're set up for your next place. And once you vacate, we can release the rest of the funds to you so we could help you get into your next place and you don't have to feel the stress of getting out of here and into your next place at the same time. Is that something that would benefit you, or probably not? Right? So we're listening for those areas where we can say, hey, if I offered this, is this something that's helpful? And in their head, they're going, this is awesome. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, this is awesome. Right? So I'm solidifying myself as a great solution to their problems while they're self-eliminating all the other options, like listing it with a realtor, keeping the house, renovating it, all that other stuff. So we're kind of doing both things simultaneously.
I love this because I feel like subconsciously when we're talking to people, when we say the probably not part, it's like they're not going to tell me what to do, right? Because nobody wants to be told what to do, right? So then they start thinking for themselves and they're like, man, this does sound like a great idea. Oh my God, I'm not going to be stressed out about this. I don't have to worry about this anymore. But it's much better when it is their idea as opposed to it being my idea.
Correct.
So I love this. This is so good. If you're listening to this and you're driving, I'm going to need you to listen to this again where you can take some notes.
Yes, I would take some notes.
Because Jeremy's giving it all away. I love it. I love it.
So, that's really important. So, just go in on those appointments, right? Don't overqualify the leads. Go on the appointments. You're going to be surprised how things can change. They may say, I don't want anything less than $300,000 over the phone. And you go on the appointment, you lock it up for $200,000. It happens all the time. So don't ever assume anything. Go on the appointment and go as a consultant. Consult them on all the different options. And I'm going to add one other thing here because I know we're starting to run a little late on time, and that's called status alignment, right? This is where you want to be a friend, right? So another technique we do, and I love what Dan Taubach says, is like when he gets a lead, his favorite thing is it's an opportunity to make a new friend. And if you go in there with the mindset that, hey, I'm going to consult them, help them, whether I get the deal or not, I'm going to consult them and give them value. If they don't sell me the house, chances are they may refer to me down the road, because that happens, actually, believe it or not. But I'm going to try to be a friend to them as well. And when you're a friend, what do you do when you're trying to be a friend, right? You have to be vulnerable. You have to tell them stuff about you. You have to get information out of them. There has to be this level of trust. There has to also be this social equality where nobody feels more superior or inferior to the other person. So we just want to come across as somebody that they would go to church with, have a beer with, watch a football game with, talk at the kids' soccer game with, right? Whatever that is where we can get relatable. We want to build rapport and be their friend. So you need to find some commonalities where you could become relatable so they feel like, hey, this is a good guy, this is a good lady. If we weren't in this situation, I would definitely spend time talking to this person because they're really nice. So again, Todd Toback, we want to be a truth seeker and a truth teller. We're not going to fake it to make it. We're not going to lie. We're not going to sell. We're going to be very honest and transparent, a truth teller. And in response, we're hoping there'll be a truth seeker. They'll give us information back. And having that honesty and transparency allows us to build a friendship, which helps us solidify a better relationship to potentially getting a deal done.
I love it. I love it. You're giving all the gems away. If there was a resource that you think can help the listeners, what's a resource that you have that you can give
Yeah,
them?
absolutely. And I'm going to give 3 little tidbits away before we leave real quick. But
Okay.
reifreedom.com/gift. reifreedom.com/gift. If you guys go there, you'll get my free ebook, More Deals, Bigger Deals, and Less Cancellations. It's our top sales techniques. It breaks down our top sales techniques, which is, what we just talked about: status alignment, perceived ownership, overcoming higher authority and timeline objections, providing certainty, which is a huge one, and handling pricing objections and negotiating with sellers. So that ebook is free. Go there, get it. And I guarantee if you start implementing it into your off-market acquisitions today, you'll start to see more deals closing tomorrow.
I love it. I love it. It has been a great pleasure having you on this podcast today.
As well.
You shared so much valuable information, that the details that people really want to know when they're talking to people, because they're afraid, because they don't know what to say. And you broke it down so much that I hope that this adds tremendous value to whoever's listening to this episode. So I want to say thank you, because that was amazing.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. I know we're running on time. Real quick, all right? More deals. You guys want more deals? Write this down. You guys all have sellers that ghost you, right? You made multiple attempts to reach these sellers, and they are ghosting you. Send them this text. Did I say something that upset or offended you? Did I say something that upset or offended you? Send that text to all the people ghosting you, and people are going to start having conversations with you again. They are afraid to tell you that they hurt your feelings, so they will start to communicate with you. So that's one. The second one is, if you're a wholesaler and you are selling your deals to buyers, when you get all the offers, send this text to get bigger deals. Hey, we received your offer. We're reviewing all the offers now. Before we make a decision, is this your highest and best? You'd be surprised how many buyers come back and raise it $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. That happens multiple times a year, significant amount of money. All right, last thing, less cancellations. I'm just trying to provide as much value as I can here.
You're giving it all away. I love it.
When you are about to sign a contract with the seller, okay, this is how you really just solidify it. Before they sign, I just pause. Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, we talked about the price. We talked about all the ways we can help you today. But before you sign, I just want to make sure, are you certain that you want to sign this contract and move forward? And what you do is you're allowing them to, again, to have perceived ownership. Yes, I do want to sign this contract, because you just gave them an out. And I'm telling you, that's a scary question to ask right there when you're about to get it signed. But when you do that, the chances of them calling you back and saying, I changed my mind and want to cancel it, are slim and none. So add those 3 techniques into your business today. I guarantee you start making more deals, bigger deals, and you'll have less cancellations.
I love it. I love it. So for the folks that are listening, if they want to stay in touch, they're like, man, Jeremy gave all the value. I need to be connected to him. What is the best way to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on all the social media channels. Just Jeremy Beland, Beland, REI Freedom. On all our Facebook groups, reifreedom.com, Jeremy Beland on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. I'm out there doing content all day, every day. It's like a full-time job, it seems, but I'm trying to provide as much value as I can, because I've been blessed, like you, to have this ability to change my life. And it would be doing myself and everybody I know a disservice if I can't help other people do this. I had a reset button in life. I've been able to pay it forward to many people hundreds of times over. Now I could teach people to do it to their community. It's basically become my calling. I would have never thought the worst time of my life turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And if you're listening and you want to buy your first rental property with no money down, the best way to learn how to do that is to join my free group. It's on Facebook. It's called The Freedom Inc. I'm going to have the link in the show notes. But again, thanks, Jeremy. And until next time, Do It Movement listeners, see ya.
Thank you for tuning into our show. If you need more hand-holding on your rental property investor journey, book a 15-minute strategy session with Martine. We can see if you're a fit for the Freedom Inc. fam. Link in the show notes. Also be sure to join the free Freedom Inc. Facebook group, where each week Martine goes over a real-life rental property investor deal and shows you how the deal was found, how to get the money, and how to make it cash flow, and much more. If you'd like to connect with Lori, be sure to email her at vitalizeproperties@live.com. Until next time, see you.